All right. All right. Today is January 30th, 2021, and we are at the Tulpehocken Road trailhead. We're going to be hiking the Tulpehocken Road Loop, as we call it, today. It's going to be about 3 miles long. So let's start down the trail. And we're going to start the trail right here at the yellow gate. We've parked up here in the parking lot. We're going to start at the yellow gate. And this will take us down to intersect with the multi-purpose trail. And then we'll be turning left on the multi-purpose trail to do the Tulpehocken Drive Loop. And as you can see on the Tulpehocken Road Loop, this would have been Tulpehocken Road. This would have been Tulpehocken Road, and there's a little puppy dog that's going for a run. There you go, looking to get some exercise. Yeah, so this would have been Tulpehocken Road, or Tulpehocken Drive, I should say. It's going to continue down and intersect with the multi-purpose trail. But before the lake was built, it probably would have gone right across where the lake is built right now. I have to do some research on that, but I'm thinking that it may have actually turned left, and the multi-purpose trail today is part of what used to be Tulpehocken Drive. So now we've walked down to the bottom of the hill on Tulpehocken Drive, and we are intersecting with the main multi-purpose trail. And you can see if we turned right, you can see the trail continues along the wood line. But we're going to turn left, and it appears that the trail was built over the top of what used to be Tulpehocken Drive. So we're going to walk this, and when we come upon a mile marker, we'll let you know exactly where we are on the trail. But this is a nice trail. It's a nice flat trail down here at the bottom. I think we're going to encounter a few hills a little further along in the hike, but nothing too crazy. And then one of the points of interest, we're going to take this little side trail here, and you can see that people have used this side trail to get down to the lake, and they can do some fishing from here. There is an old foundation here, and you can probably see that on the ground. And then you'll see a stone wall that is part of the time that land that time forgot, I should say. An old stone foundation, and then a lot of clear cut along here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that there used to be a gas station or service station down in this area, and we may be looking at the part of the foundation that's left over from that. We're standing on a concrete foundation, and then the wall is over here to the right. And we're walking a little further along the what used to be Tulpehocken Drive and is now part of the multi-purpose trail system. You can probably see over here there's an old drain pipe that ran under the road and drained down into what used to be a little stream and is now the lake. And we walk back up here on the trail a little bit. You'll see it's really picturesque, the way that the trail, or the way that the road used to run along this embankment. Let's take a look over here. This looks like an old groundhog hole. It was probably taken over by foxes at one point, but now it doesn't look like it's being used. We're back on the trail again, and we'll head up to the hill, but the view of the lake this time of year with the foliage being down is really nice. As we look off in the distance, we can see what's the Old Church Road bridge. If you look on a map, you can see where Old Church Road intersects with Route 183, and that is the bridge. And then there's a parking area up there as well. And this year they had a Christmas tree drop there. If you wanted to discard your live Christmas trees, you could discard them in that parking lot, and they would put them in the lake, and it makes for good nesting areas for the fish. So now we've gotten to the top of the hill, just a mild incline on Tulpehocken Drive, or as it is now, the multi-purpose trail. Some really nice scenery from up here, especially this time of year. Okay, we're all the way at the top of the hill on the multi-purpose trail. And you can see the way that we came. And what we're going to be seeing up here is a place where there's an old field road that connects with Tulpehocken Drive. And we could have walked down that field road, but I chose to come down this way so that we could actually connect with the actual trail system. So we're going to continue down on the multi-purpose trail, and we'll see if we can find ourselves a trail marker to show us what mile marker we're at. Here's a view that shows that on the right hand side you can see the lake, and on the left hand side there's lots of fields. In years gone by, we have noted in some of these fields right here, it appears that if there were deer that were killed on the road, the rangers or the game commission would bring them back and discard them in these fields back here. But that was a few years ago. We haven't seen anything recently. But we would find skeletons with complete skulls and jaws and teeth and everything else. So it's all part of nature. Right now we are between mile marker 22 and mile marker 23 on the multi-purpose trail. This used to be Tulpehocken Drive. I'm not sure where it ended, but we'll find out eventually, I guess. We're down along the lakefront, and as we come up on a turn in the trail here, we'll be able to see where there's a cutaway that goes down to the lake, and we're going to take that. We're going to head down there to the lake and show you some of the things that you can see that were left behind when the lake was built. Again, this is between mile marker 22 and mile marker 23, and what you're going to see is some old foundations, some old stone foundations that were left behind, and let's see if we can get a view of that. And you'll see over there to the left, you'll see some foundation and the remnants of concrete, and there's remnants of concrete right here as well. And then if you head over here and look at these steps that are still remaining and heading down to what used to be one of the streams that ran through the area and is now the lake. This is part of the stair system for the Gruber Wagon Works, G-R-U-B-E-R Wagon Works. And the Gruber Wagon Works is a very historical building, very historic, has a long history. It was moved, the building itself, the wagon works and the house and everything were moved by the Army Corps of Engineers when the lake was built. You can see what's left of the foundation here. And then we'll head over here, get a little better view. In many cases, what looks like rocks is really pieces of old concrete. You can see there's an old stone wall here, and you can see that there were concrete blocks. There's a whole concrete block wall that goes on for a long way. This was all part of the Gruber Wagon Works. Some old bricks, some concrete, another concrete pad over here, and then a concrete block. Here in this concrete you can see if we can get a picture of it with my foot. You can see where there were posts that were sticking out of the concrete. And then part of the wall over there. And then now this is a cove in the lake that when the water level is higher in the summertime would be burying all of this. You wouldn't have the ability to see it. And we're going to head back up this little cutaway here, which used to be the road that led down to the Gruber Wagon Works. And we'll head back up to the trail and continue on. I'm going to believe that if you look straight ahead, you can see what appears to be an old field road also, and I think that was probably part of the road system that connected to the Gruber Wagon Works. But we're going to turn right and head down the trail and see if we can find mile marker 23. And alongside the trail, here's a pile of pheasant feathers, or bird feathers. Pretty sure that a fox had a great meal here not too long ago, very recently. Okay, we're still on the multi-purpose trail between mile marker 22 and 23, and we took a little turn in the trail. Beautiful trail system headed down through here for bicycles, horses, or just hiking as we are today. We're coming up on a trail marker sign that you can probably see in the distance. This one, I believe, is just a directional sign telling you which way the trail goes. As we say in many of our videos, the rangers do a great job of maintaining the trail system, but in some cases the markers have fallen down. So you really want to carry a trail map with you, and especially when you're just first getting familiar with these trails, so you don't end up branching off on a side road. And here it is, just a trail marker sign, as we show in many of our videos. Bicycles yield to horses, hikers yield to horses, and bicycles yield to hikers. And as is the case many times on these trails, we're walking down in sort of an open field area, and we're going to head back down into the woods, which is really what makes this trail system so unique, is the way that you're in and out of the woods. In the summertime, there's lots of foliage back here in this area. This time of year, it's a whole lot easier to see things and find things that were left behind when the lake was built. And as we come down around the turn here, we see another trail directional sign, and we get a nice view of another one of the coves in the lake. There's a view of the cove, and we'll head down through here and see an even better view of another arm of the lake. This arm of the lake brings you up to Burnville, to the Scheide boat launch, and also to the Old Church Road parking area that we just showed in one of our earlier videos, where there's a bridge and the parking area. As you can see, the water level is way down right now. They lower it by about 5 feet this time of year to be able to anticipate any runoff from winter storms and so forth. And so the water level is down. You can see a lot more along the shoreline. In the summertime, this water level would be up to where just about where those trees are, where that tree line is. All right, here's something of note. We have reached mile 23 of the multi-purpose trail, and you can see a nice clear mile marker there, and it's right by a little cove in the lake. A view of where we've come from. Lots of fields nearby here that we could have cut through, but we chose to stay on the trail. So let's see if we can head out and find mile marker 24, which will be just about at the intersection of the trail system and Route 183. Here's an example of how the trail system winds through the field. That's where we just came from. Now we're headed up into to continue the trail, and it's going to take us into the woods, and I believe this section of trail leading up to mile marker 24 is mostly going to be wooded after we get through this one stretch where we're kind of headed up into the woods. Here we are headed back into the woods, and as I mentioned in an earlier segment, this section is going to take us to mile marker 24, which will very shortly thereafter, the trail will intersect with Route 183, and there's a section where you would need to walk along Route 183 for a short distance on the shoulder to get back to where the trail heads back up into the woods. Here's an example of the view of the lake that you can get as you're up on the trail system. This particular arm of the lake, or branch of the lake, goes from the main area of the lake up to Burnville, to the Scheide boat launch and to the Old Church Road parking area. But it's pretty wide in here. This arm of the lake is zoned as a no wake zone, which means that you're not allowed to go faster than idle speed with boats. Great place to come with kayaks. So at this section of trail, we've come up upon what is, I guess, would be considered a very mild section of trail, a very mild hill. What you can see here, I just happen to see it here on the trail. Let's see if we can get a picture of it. And see if I can get out of the light, get you a good picture of it. And what you're looking at is, I guess to put it politely, some excrement from what I believe would be a coyote. And you can see that it was eating some seeds and so forth. When you're hiking on these trails, particularly if there are a lot of leaves, you want to pay attention to the tree roots that are sometimes buried underneath the leaves. It's not too bad here, but sometimes when the leaves have freshly fallen, the tree roots can be buried underneath. You just have to be careful that you maintain your footing, and believe it or not, it's even worse on downhill stretches where you're walking across tree roots like this. Here's an example of the kind of work that the rangers have to do year round. This particular tree blew down. You can see the roots are exposed, or what's left of them, and it had fallen across the trail. So the rangers came out and cut this section of the tree that was blocking the trail, just kind of rolled it downhill here, and you can see where they cut it on this side and then also on this side. So probably not an easy job, and they do a really, really nice job of keeping the trails clear. So we've reached the top of a medium-sized hill between mile marker 23 and 24, and then we get this nice flat trail to walk across the top. It's always rewarding when you've made it to the top of one of these hills. I'm just taking a guess, and I'm estimating that we are right now probably at about mile marker 23 and a quarter. And so on this section of trail from Topahaken Drive, where we parked, all the way down on the trail system to mile 23 and now headed to 24, we really only had one mild hill that was easy to traverse. Had to take our time, but it wasn't anything really crazy. So it's been a nice trail so far. We're on the trail, and we're back in one of the coves near mile marker 24 on the multi-purpose trail. And you can see some things that look a little bit like pallets, like shipping pallets, that are along the water's edge on the other side. Let's see if we can get a better view. And there's a lot of them, and they're weighted down with concrete blocks in many cases. And what we're told is that they are to provide structure for the fish for nesting. I think the round ones are used for catfish, and I believe these others are for other types of fish like bass and so forth. And again, coming up on mile marker 24, this is a very, very, very mild hill. But I always try to get the film turned on as we're approaching any hills at all, just in case you're interested in riding this with a bicycle, or if you are looking for hiking paths that don't involve any hills at all or very minor hills. This route from Topahaken Drive so far to mile marker 24 has had only very mild hills. Something that you might not see if you're not paying attention as you travel these trails, here's a gorge that I'm sure used to be an old stream or something that runs right alongside of the trail. But as I said, if you're not paying attention, you probably would never see it. It's a very deep gorge, probably 15 feet deep, and there's some animal trails down into it. I'm sure the animals use it, like the deer use it to travel back and forth. Something to note, you can see there's a drain pipe here. This area must have experienced quite a bit of runoff, and I'll tell you why I say that. There's the drain pipe. You can see remnants of ground cover, like landscaping ground cover, that the rangers laid down on the trail, and they have stones on the trail here. So I suspect that they probably have experienced runoff in this area, and they do a good job of trying to keep the trail nice enough for us to walk on it all year round. So we keep seeing examples of where side trails join the main trail, and there's one right there. We are not going to go up that trail. We're going to follow the main trail, which is down this way. And here's a view of an area that there's a trail here that people use, I'm sure, to come down and do some fishing when the water level's a little bit higher. And you can see as you look down the lake, or down the cove, you can see that the cove leads down to the main part of the lake. And you can see the fishing structures that look like pallets with concrete blocks securing them. And those pallet areas and structures are structures that the fish use for habitat and breeding. Now we're back on the main trail, on the main multi-purpose trail, after looking down the cove up near mile marker 24. And you can see we're about to cross a really nice, well-maintained bridge that the rangers have to take care of all year long. We just reached the top of a very, 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 very small hill, very mild hill. And as we get up to the top here, we are presented with a sign for mile marker 24. And there we go. And as the sign says, bikes yield to hikers, hikers yield to horses, and bikes yield to horses. So let's continue on. We're going to take this trail out to Route 183 from mile marker 24. We just passed mile marker 24, and we've come up upon a trail that leads down to the lake. It looks like it's pretty well used. I'd say it's a good bet that humans use that to get back in, get access to the water for fishing, and I would say the wildlife probably uses it too, to get down to the water, down to the water's edge for water. We'll continue on the trail. We are headed from mile marker 24 out to Route 183. We're starting the downhill section of the trail just past mile marker 24, and you can probably see the Route 183 bridge in the distance as cars go by. And there's another one. So we're very close to 183, where we're going to have to walk along the shoulder of the road, since there is no trail system to connect us over to the other part of the trail. But we're actually going to be heading back in the opposite direction from the trail and headed back to complete what we call the Tulpehocken Drive loop, and that'll become evident a little further along when we get out onto 183. We've reached the top of the final hill, and we're headed out to Route 183. If we were to turn right here at 183, we would head back over and join up with the trail system on the other side. We're not going to do that. We're going to actually turn and go back to the Tulpehocken Road parking lot, Tulpehocken Drive parking lot. You can see we're at what's known as the Mount Pleasant Trail North. This is considered a trailhead. Unfortunately, the map holder is empty, but you can always pick up maps over at the visitor center or the ranger station. So let's head back up Route 183, and we'll find our car after we head up 183 and turn off onto Zerby Road. And we're at the entrance to the Mount Pleasant North trailhead, and you can see here there's an arrow showing which way we can go if we're hiking, but it's saying they don't want horses going back this trail. Horses would go along the road and up to another trail that we're actually going to be walking on to get back to our parking lot at Tulpehocken Drive. However, if we were going to continue on to mile 25 of the trail, we would very carefully walk across the Route 183 bridge and end up on the other side of the water, and then we'd find a trail that goes up into the woods to the right, taking us to mile marker 25. So let's turn around the other way. We're going to head up 183 and find Zerby Drive, which will then intersect with Tulpehocken Drive, which is where our car is parked. I just want to get a shot of this. We're walking along a very active road, Route 183, and I'm staying way off to the side on the grass shoulder and paying attention to oncoming traffic. So be careful if you walk this stretch of road. As we're walking north on 183, we're passing Mount Pleasant Road, and you can look down 183 from whence we came. And we'll head up north here, and we're going to be turning left at the next road, which is Zerby Drive. Well, we've come up to this sign. If we were on horseback, we would turn left on this trail, which would then take us up and let us intersect near mile marker 24 on the multi-purpose trail, and that's if we were on horseback. Since we were hiking, we came up along the side of 183 to get back up to here. But we're going to continue on here, and you should be able to see a gravel road just up ahead of us here. That's actually Zerby Drive, and we're going to turn left on Zerby Drive, and then Zerby Drive will allow us to intersect with Tulpehocken Drive, and that's where we'll find our car at the Tulpehocken Drive parking lot. Here we are turning left on Zerby Drive. It's kind of an old dirt road kind of thing that we're going to take all the way back up to Tulpehocken Drive. Here we are on Zerby Drive, and if you'll look, you can see sign says no motor vehicles. There's a trail that leads down from here down to the main trail, and then intersects probably a little bit before you reach mile marker 24, going back towards mile marker 23. So you just want to make sure if you park here that you keep the road clear. And although Zerby Road is not part of the trail system, it's still a nice walk on an old road like this. And the reason we use it is because it allows us to do a loop trail where we can leave our car and don't have to backtrack on trails to get back to our car. We can just head up Zerby Drive here, intersect with Tulpehocken Drive, and that's where our car will be. And we're following Zerby Drive around and head back over again from Zerby Drive to Tulpehocken Drive to where we have our car parked. Still walking up Zerby Drive, passing a lot of nice little houses back here. Actually, some of them not so little, but a bunch of nice houses back here along Zerby Drive, which will take us to Tulpehocken Drive and to our car. Not much in the way of scenery, but I wanted to show that walking down Zerby Drive, up ahead of us you can see Tulpehocken Drive, and we'll be turning left on Tulpehocken to get back to our car at the parking lot, and that happens to be a Blue Marsh Corps of Engineers parking lot. And here we are at Tulpehocken Drive. You can see the intersection of 183 and This happens to be Tulpehocken Drive. We're going to head back this way and pick up our car back in the parking lot. As I mentioned earlier in this some of these videos, we like the idea of being able to do a loop, and the route that we took today allows us to leave the car, complete a loop without ever having to backtrack on any of the trails that we covered in the first go-round. And just to complete the loop, this is the end of Tulpehocken Drive. You can see our car up there in the distance and see the trailhead sign up in the distance. So this is the road that you would come back off of 183 to get to the Tulpehocken Drive parking lot.